Okay, sports study students. So I'm just going to go through the first practical assignment for sports studies. So this one is for the futsal/soccer practical assignment. The first page of the document essentially outlines the purpose of the task. Um, then it goes into what the description of the assessment task is actually involving. So there's multiple different sections to the task. There's 5. So part of it will be you'll be doing a comparison between the sports of futsal and soccer. There's the practical component, which will be about you demonstrating and learning your skills and attributes in the following areas. There's also the need to complete a self-assessment, uh, firstly in the second week of the unit and then at the end of the unit. And then you'll need to also complete some peer assessments on 2 of your peers. So we'll make sure that we get you in groups to be able to do that. Then you'll have an evaluation and reflection section. So the way that you'll be assessed is you'll complete this assignment. You'll also be doing your practical lessons where I'll have a teacher checklist that will determine your application to performance standard grade. So the learning requirements and assessment design criteria are outlined here if you want to have a look at that. But then the main rubric, the performance standards, this is the sheet that I will give back to you when it's time to give you your grades once you've submitted your final copy. This is one of the sheets that I'll give back to you. So you get marked on your application 1 performance standard, your application 2 performance standard, which is your practical component. You also get assessed on your investigation 1 performance standard, which is about your ability to source information from a variety of sources and also reference correctly. You'll be looking at some parts of the assignments from different perspectives. So investigation 2 covers you for that performance standard. And then you also have a reflection performance standard being assessed as well from part of your assignment. So if we scroll down, the teacher observation checklist, this is the sheet that I will give back to you at the end of the unit to tell you what grade I've given you for the different elements of futsal and soccer. So shooting, passing, receiving, dribbling, defending, initiation of tactics, communication and initiative, knowledge of rules and gameplay. And I've also just put some dot points underneath each subheading to give you an idea of the things that I'll be looking out for. And then you'll get an overall grade of an A plus to an E minus. So the first part of your assignment is to complete a comparison of futsal and soccer. This one goes towards your application 1 performance standard. And one of the important things here is that you make sure that you reference using in-text referencing, which is author and date, references from at least 3 sources. So I would expect that all of the different table cells actually have a reference in them. Okay, but obviously if you're looking for a website that has differences of rules between soccer and futsal, you might find a source that contains all of the information, but it's about making sure that that information is reliable and backed up by multiple different sources. So if you want to get a good grade for the investigation 1 performance standard, you need to make sure that you are sourcing your information from a variety of different sources. So some of the things that you'll need to look at the differences in rules, the number of players on the pitch and court for soccer and futsal, the time of playing periods, whether they're halves or quarters, how long do the breaks go for. Substitutions, you're talking about whether there is a limited number allowed or whether there is unlimited and they can happen anytime. How a goal kick's taken, so when the ball goes out of bounds from back behind the baseline, how is the ball brought back into play? Contact, is there any contact allowed? What contact is allowed, if any, depending on the different sport? Bringing the ball back into play from the sideline, how is that conducted in each different sport? So futsal and soccer. Offside as well. Is there offside in both sports? You'll need to research that to find out. When a ball is played to the keeper by one of the keeper's own teammates, what happens? How is the keeper allowed to play that ball? A number of times as well that the ball can be played back to the keeper whilst your team is in possession. There is a difference between that rule for soccer compared with what is allowed in futsal, so you'll need to research that. And then substitutions, if a player is sent off, you'll need to look into the differences into what is allowed between the two sports. So after you've done that, you're then going to look at what are the possible benefits and advantages of futsal compared with soccer. Now you need to look at this from the player's perspective, coach's perspective, and spectator's perspective. So what I would suggest you do is you actually create a heading, player's perspective, write down the benefits and advantages from the player's perspective of futsal over soccer, and then put another dot point in for coaches, and you outline what the advantages are from the coach's perspective. And you can also include the officials, like the umpire's perspective, the referee's perspective. And then you can have another dot point for spectators' perspective and outline the things that you need to, or the ways that futsal might be more exciting to watch from a spectator's perspective compared with soccer. So this covers your Investigation 2 performance standard, which is looking at things from multiple perspectives. So if you're able to look at players, coaches, and spectators' perspectives, then you're definitely giving multiple perspectives, and depending on how much detail you put into your responses will have a depending on the grade for that. So then you'll do the same thing, but the limitations and disadvantages of futsal compared with soccer. So in what ways is futsal limited compared with what is possible with soccer? And again, I suggest you put dot points there for players' perspective, coaches' perspective, and then spectators' perspective, and you'll be assessed against the Investigation 2 performance standard there. So here is where you'll put your Investigation 1 reference list. So all of the content that you covered up here and all of the sources that you outlined and used and you've got in-text references for. As you progress through and fill in that information, what I suggest you do is put your reference, your full reference in here. Make sure that you use the online reference generator. It's the most reliable referencing medium in my opinion. I don't really like the reference list generator that's embedded within Word because I don't think that the format comes out correct. So make sure you use the online reference generator, which is available through the intranet. So then the next part of this, in weeks 2 and weeks 5, so you'll have 5 weeks of futsal, you'll need to complete a self-assessment. So what you'll do is you'll give yourself a rating of 1 to 5, 5 being excellent and 1 being needs a lot of improvement. And then you can comment on the things that are listed on the left here. So for shooting, for example, I've played soccer for a number of years. I don't play anymore, but I would maybe give myself a 3 because I never played striker. But I would justify my reason. I would say there's still room for improvement. My accuracy, shooting towards the small goals would be something that would need to be a focus on. But I have knowledge of soccer and how to shoot to be able to give myself a rating of 3. And you would do that for each of the different subheadings, as you can see listed here. And then at the end of the unit, you'll also do a self-assessment to see if you've improved. Talk about the things in the comments here of why, if you have improved, why are you justifying that to the score that you've now given yourself? Or if maybe you haven't really seen any improvement, what would the reasons be behind you not giving yourself a better score? So you'll do that for all of those, but that second one won't come along until the end of the unit. So this first self-assessment will be completed after our second prac lesson, so our second week of prac. The peer assessments you'll then do at about the third lesson, I believe. You'll be in groups of 3 where you will do peer assessments on 2 of your peers. Again, you'll give them a score for the different categories, and you justify your reason for giving that score. You can't just circle it and then not write a comment. There needs to be a comment written there as well to justify your reasons behind it. And as you can see on the left hand side, I've given you some things to consider, some things to talk about when you're actually writing your comments. So the first table was the peer assessments completed on others. So this is what you've written about others, so on others by you. And then the second table is where your peers who have done the peer assessments on you will email you what they've written about you, and then you can insert that into here. You put their names at the top here, and then you'll have what they've written about you. So it's really important that you don't, bad mouth or put people down. It's more about giving reliable justification as to the reasons behind the scores that you've given. So that will be done, as I said, around week 3. Right at the end of the unit, you'll complete an evaluation. So this is about the Reflection 1 performance standard. You'll answer these questions. You're looking at about 100 words per response for all of these evaluation questions, just to make sure that you're putting enough detail in. So describe a little bit about the unit for question 1. What were your most successful skills, and what was the evidence to suggest why it was your strongest skill? What was most challenging? Why? How do you know it was your weakest skill? Did it affect your gameplay and your team? And what can you do to improve this skill in the future? Now, that's not 100 words per response for that question. It's 100 words for question 3 total. If you do end up writing a little bit more, that's okay, but to be able to answer the question in enough detail, you're looking at, definitely needing to have 100 words. Comment on the advice and feedback given to you during your peer assessments. How did the comments written by your peers help you to develop your skills and understanding of futsal and soccer? So you can comment on a few of the specific things that were written about you in the peer assessments there. Discuss the importance of interpersonal relationships in a team-based sporting environment. So this is asking you here about, why is it important to develop good relationships with your teammates or with other people involved in a team-based sport? That's really looking at personal development performance, SACE capability, or integrated learning capability. So make sure you consider why is it important that you develop good working relationships with your teammates and also other officials or coaches. How can playing futsal or soccer enhance someone's well-being? So obviously there are a range of physical health benefits to playing sport, not just futsal and soccer. So you can consider some of those, but what would be some of the other mental health benefits? So here we're talking about things like, gaining friendships, building resilience, developing the ability to cope with loss, because your team isn't likely to always win. Consider the ways in which playing futsal or soccer can enhance somebody's mental well-being. And then finally, look over the self-assessment and consider what are the areas that you've noted the most improvement in and what learning had taken place in order to enable this. So this is really looking at the integrated learning capability. So the ability to learn and how you learn. It's not about so much what you've learned, it's about how you've learned. Okay, so that pretty much brings it to the end. Obviously, if you have any questions about this assignment, you are welcome to ask me in class, but hopefully that's given you a fair summary of how to complete this assignment, and you're welcome to go back to this task and this video to be able to describe how that task takes place. All right, cool.